or negatively as part of a European settlement that was to eventually lead to the destruction of the lives and culture of Native Americans, whether deliberately or as collateral damage caused by European diseases. There is something of the seeds of both these later experiences in aspects of the mindset and the early impact of these settlers. What is clear is that the Pilgrims shine a strong light or cast a long shadow, depending on the viewpoint of those reflecting on them, down the centuries. The people who feature in Mayflower Lives, as on the original ship, were a mixture of so-called saints, members of puritan separatist congregations, and strangers, economic migrants. Together they made up a rather uneasy community on the ship and in the eventual settlement, and we need to remember both groups when exploring the adventure on which they embarked. Some of those we will meet were saints, some were strangers, and one of the latter was very much an outsider, who came to have an impact to rival any of the insiders. But together they give us an insight into this epic adventure. Many books tell the story of the Mayflower, but the characteristic of this book is that it explores the motives, trials, tribulations, successes, and significance of this myth-making voyage and settlement through the interlocking lives of 14 of those who were part of these events. Some were men, some were women. One was a little child who did not survive the first winter. One was a Native American. Their lives are dramatic and colourful. For example, Captain Jones was a successful sailor, but one who had never previously crossed the Atlantic. John Howland fell overboard, but survived. William Bradford wrote the definitive history of the settlement. Mary and Richard Moore were sent to America without family because their father thought them products of his wife's adulterous relationship. Stephen Hopkins had survived shipwreck and had served with John Smith of Pocahontas fame. Tisquantum, Squanto, was a Native American who had escaped from kidnapping, spoke English, and assisted the colonists. Myles Standish and John Alden were allegedly love rivals, and Standish was a brave but at times brutal military man. Richard Moore was later excommunicated for gross unchastity with another man's wife. Together they are part of this astonishing story. As these individual stories build, we will increasingly see how these particular lives intersected and affected each other, whether it was by way of cooperation or conflict, positively or negatively. Each life has been selected because it opens up a window into a particular aspect of the Mayflower experience. In this way, we can explore wider issues such as religious faith, relations with native peoples, politics, the fur trade, motherhood and family life, romance and sexual relationships, deviance and crime. Yet each wider theme is rooted in a personal his story or her story. They have also been chosen so that together they move the story forward from journey to settlement to building a community, and where they intersect with other lives, they provide their own individual perspective on the unfolding events. For these were lives bound together on one very small ship and one very small colony. Despite this, their interlocking small worlds give us insights into a distant past and a legacy that transcends their own individual experiences. It is biography with a difference, because these are Mayflower lives. Visiting Massachusetts in 2018 as part of the research for this book gave me a vivid insight into how this history is still apparent in the modern world. While waiting at passport control in Boston's Logan International Airport, I was amused to see a poster of a demurely dressed Puritan woman assuring me that, "We thank thee for thy patience." But the connection with the 17th century is even more tangible. It is still possible to touch the water from the spring near Truro on Cape Cod, where Pilgrims first drank, stand on First Encounter Beach and imagine the flying arrows and musket shots, walk the street they knew in Plymouth, gaze out to sea from Coles Hill, which still